Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made is a Myth show, Making a Difference Together, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their stories of the journey to building their business. And because we know that success in business doesn't happen on our own, we're taking some time out to recognize and appreciate the folks who have helped us along the journey. Today, I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. My guest is a duck hunter and has taken his two older children to Saskatchewan to hunt. So being a Canadian, I definitely want to hear more about this story. He has many hobbies like coaching and golf and basketball and reading and photography and hiking. So we'll learn a little bit more about that. And he's most proud of his children, which is awesome to hear. They're turning into some amazing people. And secondly, his business, which as it's grown, has been able to maintain an amazing culture. And again, we'll dig into that a little bit here. It's my pleasure to welcome Jason to the show today. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Tim. Thank you so much. Happy to be here and appreciate that warm introduction.
Well, let's jump in and have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, where you were born, where you live, about your family, and things like that.
Sure, happy to do so. From Bay City, Michigan, so God's country, as I like to refer it, Michigan in general. It really kind of a blue collar background. My father worked at GM. My mother worked a little bit on the side, but stayed at home and raised the kids. Ended up going to college at Rose-Hulman down here in Indiana. Played basketball there. Had a great experience. Made some great friends. Um, After Rose, worked at Caterpillar for a bit. Really, a couple of things there. Figured out what I didn't want to do, and really had the best boss and worst boss of my career until now. And learned a lot about leadership and really got impassioned by that. As noted, I have four kids. Three of them are in college, so really young adults. And then we have an 11-year-old, which is a little bit of a surprise, but it's been a blessing to do it all over again. And very proud of them. And perhaps, the largest impact I can have in the world is really through them and raising wonderful young adults.
Fantastic. And you've had listed a whole bunch of hobbies, but let's talk about duck hunting in Saskatchewan. How did you fall into that?
Yeah, so some of my fondest memories growing up, and I've only did it for a couple of years, but was hunting with my father and a friend of his, Herb Woods, and I got back into it. So I was at Caterpillar, and I should have hunted there. I don't know why I didn't. When I moved back to Indiana and worked at Lilly for a bit, 13 years, I got back into duck hunting, and it's just a passion of mine, being outside, being out in nature, and of the four kids, the two oldest ones have taken an interest in it, and so we've done some hunting. There's a trip that my brother-in-law started out in North Dakota for about 10 years and in Saskatchewan now for more than 10 years. And it's just phenomenal. The country, the people, the sense of community. I mean, we go out there to shoot birds and, bring them home and eat them and all that. But the stories we tell are rarely about hunting. It's about the people we meet and sitting around the dinner table and sharing a drink or a meal. And it's just a phenomenal experience. And to be able to share that, so one time I had both my older children as well as my brother-in-law and his son and some other relatives of his. And then I've also had just happened to work out where a single trip with my son as well as a single trip with my oldest daughter, just the two of us. And it's a special, special time.
That's awesome. So, given you spend a lot of time with your family, I bet you there's some funny stories that they like to tell you about you. Is there one that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Oh, story for the kids. I don't. There's plenty. I don't know that I can think of one right now. My son did immortalize me on a Cheez-It box. Um, that was a Christmas gift. We were out, so I guess this was a year ago. We did a little bit of college campus tours with Lindsay, and we were down in North Carolina. And we were right on the pontoon boat. We were out on the lake, and my daughters were being a little Instagrammy, which isn't really them. And so I don't know. I guess I was making fun of them. I held a Cheez-It out, and they took a photo. And apparently, at that moment, Grant said that's going on a box, and that's what I got for Christmas.
That's
I
awesome.
can get it for you if you want to see it. It is
Yeah,
nice.
we definitely need to
Maybe later.
yeah, need to share that out with the community. So, Jason, tell us how the business came about, and at what point Did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Yeah, it's almost a two-part story. The first part, and people sometimes hate when I share it this way, but I sort of backed into it. At the time, I was at Your Encore, which is a niche consulting company. I was an executive on loan back at Lilly, in all honesty, and working with some of my old colleagues there. And I really was doing less and less work focused on Your Encore. And I was reporting to the CEO, Brad Lawson, who's a wonderful individual. And at one point, he said, if this isn't really our core business and what you're doing, if you want to take it out on your own, it's a possibility. So I took him out to breakfast, and I said, Brad, if you kind of put the CEO hat to the side and just as a friend, a mentor, a coach, walk me through kind of the pros and cons and what it would look like to take it out on my own versus to keep it under your Encore. And to his credit, I mean, he really walked through openly, transparently around, the thought process behind it. And then I had another meeting probably a month or two later, and I can close my eyes and picture all of it. I'm in his office. We're on a circle in Indianapolis. I can picture the sun streaming kind of through the blinds, and I'm talking to him, and I'm pretty sure I want to take this out on my own and start my own company and be a single shingle at first and grow it from there. In three separate times, he says, "But Jason, you can do whatever you want, but the safe thing to do is to stay right here within your Encore." And he's saying the safe thing to do. Tim, I'm fighting visceral convulsions, and I don't know. I am, and I don't know where they're coming from. And so I call my brother up, and I was like, John, I think I'm unemployable. And he starts talking me off the ledge, like, no, I could get a job. I don't think I want to do it for someone else.
Yeah.
I think I want to take it out. I want to build it, create it. I want to do it myself. I want to build culture. I want to do it differently than what I've experienced amidst corporate culture. And so that's what we've done.
That's awesome. So tell us more about the company. What do you guys do? How do you help folks?
Yeah, we're a niche management advisory company. We manage large programs in the life science industry, anywhere from clinical trials to healthcare informatics to facilities, capital planning, a little bit of change management. We've done some transformative quality management projects across the industry. We're kind of a project program management shop. We are as passionate about the outcomes and the opportunities that our clients have. We've got great depth and expertise, and that's what we do. We've been able to help establish and grow a nonprofit from really startup to being fully self-sustainable, greater than $10 million revenues a year. We've established most of those processes. And one of the biggest compliments, an old colleague of mine from Lilly said, Jason, before Pintail got involved, we just talked, right? It was an idea, and you guys moved it to action and moved it to delivery. We've helped some rescue clinical trials in the COVID space. We've enabled some of our clients to get tens of millions of dollars in NIH grants through our ability to deliver and establish credibility within their organization. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. We're small but mighty.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Jason, tell us a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, maybe even when you didn't think you could, and the impact that that person had on you.
Yeah, I don't know if I got a great story there, but I will share. So I met with my financial advisor and the two of them, and we were talking. And apparently, I have not shared with them yet that I went out on my own, and this had already happened. So they picked themselves off the floor. We were at Bob Evans, and that was a little embarrassing. But once they got off the floor, kind of dusted themselves off, there was an awkward silence. And finally, Dan Burnett looked me in the eye and smiled and said, "You know what? I rarely have met a person that has regretted betting on themselves."
Mm.
Again, he said, "I rarely have met a person that has regretted betting on themselves."
Wow.
That has stuck with me. I've shared that certainly with other people who have been in similar situations in moving forward. And yeah, so that's been kind of a motivating factor in
Yeah.
something to live by as we go forward.
I love that thinking. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about, you realize that, you just don't want to work for someone else. And right, the ability to have more say and control and hands on in terms of the outcome when you work for yourself is significantly greater, and you can pivot faster, and you can make different decisions. And so I like that term of Never regretted betting on themselves. That's amazing.
It really is. And I probably shouldn't say these next couple of comments, but in some ways, I feel like corporate America has no soul. In one of the worst lines that I've heard, and I've heard it repeatedly, especially in the midst of layoffs, in the midst of some change or catastrophic change, right? It's just business.
Mm,
I can't tell you how many times it's just business. You know what? It's not.
yeah.
And I've been a part of a number of layoffs. I've some I'd probably continue to do again if I had to do it all over again. Others, maybe not. But it is more than business. I mean,
Mm,
it's people, it's livelihood.
yeah.
I've got a number of folks that they trust me and Pintail Solutions to keep them gainfully employed and to raise a family and to have a living and a sense of purpose in life. And it's much more than business. And that's a line that I has always irritated me. And we're not perfect, and we've not gone through any layoffs at Pintail, and maybe we will someday. But we know that it's certainly more than business, and that's how we treat and approach our employees as well as our clients in what we do.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between, at least in my experience, between family-owned companies or private-owned companies and public-owned companies. Right? The public-owned companies seem to have the culture in a book, or it's printed on the wall, and that's as far as it goes, right? Versus, private companies, the culture seems to be more, yes, it's printed somewhere, but it's actually lived out and reinforced and modeled on a day-to-day basis. And there's a big focus on it. And I know you mentioned that that's one of the things you're most proud of is your company culture. And it sounds like, that you guys are actively living it out day to day, as opposed to it just be printed on a shirt or in a binder.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct.
So what makes that difference? Why is that so important to you?
Well, I think it makes all the difference. I don't know exactly what makes that difference, and we're honestly trying to tease that out a little bit. While we're a small company, we're a remote company. We've got folks in multiple states and always have. Um, I'll tell a quick story. I was meeting with another business owner locally here in Indianapolis, um, and we're talking. First time I met her in Zoom call or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, we're a small giant." I was like, "Okay," and we kept talking, and she said, "Oh, we're a small giant." I was like, "Okay," and we kept talking. And the third time she said we're a small giant, I was like, "I better Google this on the side while I'm talking to her." It's a book, which you probably know already. Since then, I've read the book, but one of the things that really struck me with the book is just a sense of community.
Mm,
And so, we talk a lot about community and how to build community when we're remote. And I've got, one person in Atlanta, one person in Maine. We've had people in Vermont and New York. I've got people in Florida. And so how do you build that sense of community? And it's hard. And I don't know that we have it figured out, but we're certainly doing some things right.
yeah.
When I started the company, I spent a lot of time thinking through the clients and what we want to do and how we want to serve them and meet their needs and exceed their needs. I thought a lot about employees and how we want to treat them and recognizing that right they're the ones that are out on the front lines working with the clients and delivering on their behalf. There's a third space that I probably didn't think about, and it's sort of the company culture in the background. As we talk to some of our folks, and I've had a few people bring me to tears, they work hard. They work as hard as they did when they were at the CROs and the pharma companies and biotechs and clinical trial sites that they've worked at. But they say things like, "I got my life back."
Mm,
And they literally say, "I got my life back." My spouse notices it. My kids notice it because I feel trusted, respected. I can act autonomously. That was a space that I probably overlooked a little bit, but we've created something there. We're focused on scaling up now and further diversifying, kind of our client base. But I lie awake at night often thinking about how do we maintain that culture
mm.
as we get bigger, as we grow, as we expand. It's in the forefront of everything we do, and hopefully we continue to maintain that.
That's awesome. One of the things that we do to help maintain it is in our Monday huddles, I'll read out one of our points of culture, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll start and I'll say where I feel like I'm doing well and areas that I need to improve, and then my team, we just go around the circle and everybody does the same thing, and find that that's a way to keep it real, as opposed to, right, it just being this list of things that is printed on the wall. We hold each other accountable to it, and we speak out loud about how we're doing against our culture, so that we can sharpen the saw and keep each of us accountable to being real and focusing on that on a week-to-week basis.
Tim, I love it. I appreciate you sharing that. We have a couple of business meetings a week. One is pretty business oriented, consistent with EOS, the book Traction, Entrepreneurs Operating System, et cetera. The other one is a bit more kind of team focused. It's a little softer, but we've got one or two or three people kind of on their own islands, right? And they're dealing with their own client and have very little awareness around what our other teams are doing across with other clients. And so again, as we're trying to build that connection, that community, we want whether you're Valina working with a specific client, I want her to represent not just her own skills and expertise, but the Dougs and Ronas and Megans and everyone else that we have on the team as well. And so what we do is once a month we'll have someone really kind of deep dive into who they are, both personally as well as professionally, and they will pause on at least one of our values and spend a little bit of time around what's really important to them, how do they emulate it, how does it transfer or translate for our clients. But I like the idea of having everyone perhaps every month or every week share more broadly. That's great. Thanks.
So, what's the biggest learning that you've had as a business owner over the years?
Yeah, it's probably a couple. One is really appreciate the impact and the value that you're bringing, and don't be afraid to ask for a fair price. We sacrifice margins far too many times.
Yes.
We work with a lot of nonprofits, and but we deliver, and we deliver in different ways than other folks. And once we get into an organization, we rarely leave. They recognize the difference. When that project ends, they find another project to keep our folks on. And it's really, really a beautiful thing. That, and the one that for sure is not solved yet, is really the difference between working in the business and working on the business. And how do you balance and how do you scale in those two things is just an ongoing challenge. I think it's the traditional sort of entrepreneur's dilemma.
Yes.
But,
yes.
there's no new information for you there, but yes, that's what we're working with.
I love that entrepreneurial's dilemma. It certainly is. And when we first start working with clients, we ask them to commit to an hour a day, and that's an easier piece of the elephant to bite off than going further than that. And you get the momentum, right? You spend an hour a day on the business, and you get a bunch of things accomplished, and eventually you can scale up from there.
That's right.
Jason, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of the challenges that you've faced during the years, and maybe a fellow business owner that came alongside you, helped you get through that.
Yeah, we got really busy and tied into a single client. We grew that client quite a bit. I don't think we got lazy, but we certainly were very focused on that client. And then at some point realized that we really need to scale. We need to diversify our client base to be a successful company to move forward. I got introduced. I cannot remember where I got introduced to Entrepreneurs Operating System in the book Traction, and I started doing things on my own with it and made some progress. And then really kind of had to hit the reset button and say, you know what, I really need to work with others. I need to connect with some other business owners. So I frankly started really my own small group. I work out of Launch Fishers. There's a number of other business owners here. There's other people that I know, invited a handful of people. But really, there were probably two. Andrew Curtis, he owns Fuel VM. They're a brand and digital marketing development agency. And then Rex Biggs, he owns Rectio. He's more of an accountant. But an accountant with a focus on business strategy, growth, diversification, and there are others as well. But creating that small group and then going through and rereading Traction and then living it out in the people that were in the group were really in all different phases. Most were probably ahead of where we were at. Some were in sort of full implementation. Some had made progress but sort of stalled. And maybe there's another one that was a little bit behind where Pintail Solutions was at. But really partnering with like-minded individuals. You kind of mentioned it already. There's a biblical verse of iron sharpens iron in really having a couple of pieces of iron next to me to help sharpen, hone it, and provide perspective and expertise has been really, really impactful.
Fantastic. So just continuing that trend, if I asked you to pick three people in your business owner journey that you're most grateful for being there for you to help with your growth, who are those three people and how they help you?
That's a hard question. I'd probably start with Carmel Egan. Carmel's someone I worked with at Lilly. Then I left Lilly, and when I came back as an executive on loan for this nonprofit that we were working with, really connected with her in a different way. And she's been really instrumental in helping grow the business, recognize the difference of what Pintail does and how we do it, and really bring us into some other organizations as well. And it's been really instrumental. And as I talk out loud here, I don't know if I've really demonstrated that gratefulness and appreciativeness of what she's done, but she's been a big help.
Well, she's going to know now.
Well, yeah, I think so. Doug Wilson is another one. Doug Wilson was a neighbor of mine, now a mentor of mine, someone I probably don't tap into often enough. He's more connected than I could ever hope or imagine to be, has done a number of different things on the business front, loves to tie in the science and art and different aspects to it. And he's helped challenge me and help me see things differently, probably in more ways than he's even aware of. If I kind of keep going, at some point I really need to talk about my family, probably my father and brother, most of all. My father was really kind of in middle management in General Motors in a foundry. I don't think he has any idea what I really do and what Pintail Solutions really does. Despite that, he will offer an opinion, and the crispness and clarity of his perspective and his opinion is almost always right on. So the connection to the values, the treating people, I mean, without knowing technically what we really do, the advice that he provides in a humble manner, it's always spot on. And I'm not exactly sure how he does it, but he does. I'm certainly grateful for that. And I'll probably say Audra Miller. Audra is someone I brought in as VP of Operations. She's helped push the EOS further within our organization. She's introduced us to some new ways of doing business and help manage that. And she's been a godsend.
Fantastic. So thinking forward, Jason, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you're going to face in terms of reaching your goals, and who are the types of people that you're going to need to help you with those challenges?
Yeah, probably a couple of things come to mind. One is we need to do a better job of productizing our services. We come in, we deliver projects, we do so across a number of fronts. And it sometimes can feel a bit like a staffing agency, which really isn't who we are or what we do. So being crisper around productizing our services and then scaling those up and scaling those up within clients to other new clients is really, really important. As far as who we need to work, talk to, engage with, and work with, really people who've been there and done that and have greater experience in working through both the productization as well as the scale up. And so we are seeking those folks out to partner with and learn from and hopefully teach in other ways as well.
Fantastic. Jim Rohn said that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So as you think about that, what advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own, who think that they have to do it on their own or that they don't need others' help?
Yeah, it's easy to think that. The other thought, which is probably not true, is everyone's busy. I get how everyone is busy, but you also often can assume that, well, they don't have time for me, or they wouldn't want to spend time in this. And very, very rarely have I run into a mentor or someone, even people I don't know, frankly, very well, that haven't been willing to offer up their time, their ideas, their thoughts to move forward. So starting out, find a way to help yourself. It can be a book. It can be a podcast. There's this guy, Tim Campbell. He's got a podcast, interviews business owners. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Yeah, joking a little bit. But connect with other leaders, connect with other mentors, one-on-one. Put yourself out there, introduce yourself. And then, what we did is, find a small group. I ended up creating my own, but there's other small groups out there. Again, that whole concept of iron sharpens iron. And you go back and, what I said when I started my small group, most of the people that I brought in were already ahead of me as far as implementation of EOS and traction and what that meant. So don't worry or don't hesitate about being a small fish in a big pond. Bring people in that are better than you, that have more experience than you, or are just a bit ahead of you, and learn from them. And that's what I would encourage them to do.
I loved your perspective of a book or a video. So, you're the five people don't have to be somebody that you physically are interacting with. Right? You can learn a ton of information from a book, and as you mentioned, right, you guys have implemented EOS from the traction book. So it doesn't have to be somebody physically that you're interacting with. If especially for folks in smaller communities, right, it may be that you've got to get online or read a book or watch a video. Don't allow that to be a barrier from your own personal growth and development. Give yourself permission to become a better version of yourself through the information that you're bringing in. And I love what you did, Jason, in terms of creating your own mentoring group. Right? It's like, hey, we're here, we're all in the same location. Why don't we learn from one another and support and encourage one another?
Yeah, it's been great. Well, you said a lot of nuggets there. The Jim Rohn quote's phenomenal. We've lived by that both personally and professionally. I've shared that with my children, and who they're hanging around and the impact that can have and how important that is. And if you want to be better, right, surround yourself, with better people, and rub off on them, let them rub off on you, and move forward. Well, you said something else. I forget what it was. Triggered a thought. Apparently, I forgot it. Yeah.
You also mentioned that
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh
I was
yeah,
going to come back.
please.
The book and the podcast is great. But there's also something about taking that back and engaging with someone individually, whether it's Zoom, whether it's face to face, individually or small group. But you can learn an awful lot. I mean, it's a different world than you and I were 20 years ago, for sure. With all the information that's available online and podcasts and all that, but still to be able to connect and put things in perspective and context, I still think is really, really important. But go ahead.
No, please. I agree. Like the talking it out loud and saying, hey, I don't really understand. I get the concept, but I don't understand how to implement it, and being able to, bounce those ideas around with other people and get some feedback. Or to your point earlier, right, folks who maybe are a couple steps ahead of you, right, being able to see from the journey that they've been on, and you also mentioned that there's this fear of, well, what if the person doesn't have time for me, and what if, right, they're too busy, or what if I'm a burden? Well, um, I've had the same experiences as you, that nobody has ever said no to me. They might say, hey, not this week, right, or maybe in
Right,
a
right.
few weeks, but no one's ever told me no. They wouldn't be willing to chat and share stories and help one another.
If you're hungry and you're willing to put in the work and you come prepared to the meeting, and I mean, just some small steps, people open up and they want to help others, and that's been my experience. I've heard a few stories from others where it maybe didn't work out that way, but those are so rare. People want to help, they want to open up, especially if you're in it for the right reasons and you're willing to roll up your sleeves and put in a little work yourself. That's never been a problem. I completely agree.
I think there's a little bit of paying it forward too, where we
Agreed.
all know that people have helped us, and so it's almost like we want to make sure that we thank the person that helped us by helping somebody who reaches out to us and asks for help, right?
You know what? That was one of the things I probably missed the most when I was a single shingle and went out on my own 7.5, almost 8 years ago. So I sought that out. I'm a mentor at our church at St. Louis de Montfort. I'm a mentor through Edge program, which is a Christian-based whole life mentoring. So I've got a handful of young men from maybe 22 to 33,
Oh, cool.
in working through, first jobs, first wives. That was a joke. First kids, job transition, other things, and really helping them through. But paying it back and paying it forward. And I get a lot out of it. And the guys that I have, and maybe all the groups are like that, the questions they're asking themselves about legacy and impact and who they want to be at such a young age. I don't know if I was quite there when I was their age, but it's inspiring, and I certainly get a lot out of it as well.
Jason, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people who have helped you along your journey. If they were all on the show here today, what would you want to say to them?
I'm not sure I know what to say. I just simply, sincerely, thank you. Thank you for investment in me, pouring into me, and the time that you spend. We're trying to not only grow our company and do it the right way and make an impact for all of our employees as well as our clients, but pay it forward with others and through others as well. Back to the edge, one of the exercises they wanted to do is they wanted to develop a personal mission statement. So I did a little bit of research online. I found a tool. It's a little kludgy, for being honest, but in 30 minutes, and if you follow the directions, it is 30 minutes and kind of go through, you very, very rapidly get to an endpoint. And for me, my personal mission statement is to make a difference in the world through others. And we certainly do that through our clients at Pintail. We do it through our employees. We do it through mentoring the children and raising them to be the human beings that they are. That's meaningful for me, and that's what we're trying to pay forward as best we can.
That's awesome. Now, speaking of making a difference and paying forward, I believe that you're going to be dancing or something. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I was asked to be a celebrity dancer. I've had some friends argue if maybe using celebrity a little bit loosely. I know for a local charity, it is the charity is Reason to Dance, Reason for Hope. It supports children's research through Riley Children's Hospital, and if you're in the Indianapolis area, and I think even broader than that, you know what the impact Riley's has had on so many families, if not your own. It's a fantastic cause. So yes, I'm paired up with a professional dancer. I am learning 2 dances. The event is March 17th, but the children's dance is being recorded next Monday. So I have a little bit of work to do to make sure I remember all that choreography. It's been great fun. It's gotten me out of my comfort zone a little bit. Not so much the dancing, but asking for money in fundraising, and what that is probably more uncomfortable for me than even embarrassing myself on the dance floor. But like I said, it's a great cause. So since we have the floor, it's reasontodance.org /celebrities /Jason-Bork. If you want to fund, support, greatly appreciate it. It's a wonderful cause. All proceeds go to pediatric research through Riley Children's. The people who started the foundation, they pay for all operating expenses. They're wonderful individuals, Damon and Tamara Greeley. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And if folks want to contribute, it'd be much appreciated.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put the link here along with the video so folks can go to that. Now, Jason, will there be videos that we will be able to watch of you dancing?
There will. I have put some on LinkedIn already and Facebook.
All right.
So there you have it.
I love it.
It is out there.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure to put some links along with this interview so people can go and check it out and contribute to the cause. So I appreciate you doing that and helping to make a difference in the world.
It's another small way to kind of give back. Is we talk about small giants and talk about community, and it's introduced me to a number of different people, and again, the cause is just phenomenal. And so if we can help enable further research for the children and have greater impact within our community and beyond, it's a wonderful opportunity.
Jason, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Tim, pleasure's all mine. Appreciate you having me. Appreciate everything you do with Action Coach. Thank you so much.
To everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread this movement by liking the show and sharing it on your social media. And to join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.